I don't just want my child to be healthy. I want the whole world to be healthy. That means you too. How can I help you? How can I be of service to you? What questions do you have? Why do you have concerns? I understand your concerns. You know what? That makes sense. Let's delve through it.
I'm Naomi Hallum, a mother, long-term vegan, and someone who loves learning from others. I've gathered some of my favourite vegan parents, a mixture of advocates, activists, health professionals, chefs, and more, to talk about the benefits and misconceptions around vegan parenting, which are many. We'll also be talking about all the fun and not so fun stuff that we parents go through and how raising kids has shaped us. Whether you're curious about vegan parenting or just want to know where we get our protein, then this podcast is for you. It's a resource I wish I'd had as a first-time mom, but that you'll never have to be without. Welcome to Raising Gen V. This week, I got to sit down with a very special human being who goes by the very special name of Supreme. Chef Supreme, to be precise. I met Chef Supreme by chance working at a food drive in East Los Angeles, and I was instantly drawn to his radiant positivity. Supreme is a lifelong vegan and military veteran who went from cooking vegan meals on deployment to working as a celebrity chef to feeding thousands of unhoused individuals across LA to breaking a Guinness World Record for the most vegan meals served in under 1 hour. But what makes him even more incredible is that he achieved all this in addition to raising 6 children. This is a man that always puts his family first, even if it meant having to leave them behind to join the army and to build a career that could support them. And our conversation about all of this was both inspiring and honest. Get ready to hear the story of one incredible father, chef, community worker, and vegan advocate, whose positivity and kindness have touched the lives of thousands, including myself. Enjoy. Okay, Supreme, you have not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 children.
Yeah, 6 children, 3 grandchildren, 4 are adults. 1 is relatively young, and 1 is a preteen. So I got them through the whole gambit, through the whole spectrum.
You got quite the brood. I have a 2-year-old, and it is hard. What level of hard are we talking for 6 kids?
It's a unique level of hard because I'm dealing with adult problems, parenting problems, because I have children who have children. So they're still finding themselves, help them find themselves, help them find their child. It's been fun, but unique to say the least. I'm only 40 years old, so I'm still just at the peak of the second portion of my life. So it's been fun, but you know.
But yeah, no, it's fun as well, isn't it? It's also a blessing. I mean, just give me sort of an anecdote about what a day in the life with your kids can be like.
Let's see. Money, and money. They all need something. No, seriously, it's a lot of that, helping them find their way. If it's whatever they're into, how can I help put them in the highest position possible to see that come to light?
And I guess one of your approaches to that was raising your children vegan. You said you've got 2 who you raised fully vegan,
right,
and 4 who have kind of chosen their own path.
Right.
Is that a decision you kind of knew you were going to take before they were born, or is that something you kind of, should I not raise them vegan? Like, how did you come upon the decision of how you wanted to raise those kids?
So I wanted to raise my children different than how my dad raised me. My dad was very rigid. He was very matter of fact. I've never seen my dad cry. And as much as right he was, I didn't get it until I was an adult. So I wanted to be as lenient, as understanding, as forgiving, as out the way as possible, and let them just kind of be them. And I had children young. I was 17 with 2 children. So I was still a child. So I was still maturing myself. So it was almost easy, not easy peasy, but I was just letting them live and being an example opposed to saying the example.
Right. I mean, and that's 16, 17. You don't even really know who you are then. I mean, I didn't know who I was till probably past 30 years of age.
Right.
It's a big responsibility to say, okay, this is how I'm going to raise a kid at this stage when you don't even really fully know how you want to raise yourself.
I was fortunate because I knew who I was the day I was born. My given name is Supreme, and that name came with a huge responsibility. And so it means the Most High. But my father let me know that's a responsibility, not a badge of honor, if you will. So growing up vegan, my whole life, going to school, friends' houses, we were reading labels a long, long time ago. And my dad always made us understand why we're doing something. You can know fire is hot, but if you don't understand the ramifications of heat, then it won't correlate. So it was unique. I knew who I was. I just kind of wasn't happy with it because I was a rebellious teenager, if you will. So but when it was time to be a parent, I kind of locked in and not make it about me.
Wow. So you said you were raised vegan. What was it that made your parents want to raise you vegan? Do you know?
I do. I have an uncle named Life Galashaw from Brooklyn, New York. He came up in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and he was huge into the Black Power movement, African movement, just healthy living and healthy eating. And he was a microbiologist who never went to college. Like, he could tell you how a piece of rock can affect your kidneys and your intestines. And just giving that information to my dad, and my dad wanted us to be at the highest quality of human beings we could be. And one should know you're held accountable. Like, we didn't make excuses in our household. It was what it was. So once my father knew, he instilled it in himself. He lived it out. He showed it to my mother, and my mom kind of took it and ran with it. He understood who my mom was. My dad is very lax, very lenient, but he understood my mom does not play games. So he understood when gave it to her, we would have it at the highest level.
That's amazing that in the 70s and 80s, they had such an understanding about nutrition. This is in a time when, microwaves were coming out. People were cooking chicken out of a can in a microwave.
Right.
It's kind of very progressive, or is it? I don't know. It kind of takes us back to our roots a little bit as well, right?
Yeah. So it was hidden, not progressive. What was progressive was willing to stand on it. That was progressive. Naming me Supreme, my brother named Master, other brother named Shabazz. That was progressive. But he was doing the right thing. Integrity is doing the right thing when nobody's paying attention. And he just had the integrity to do the right thing. So yeah.
That's amazing. So you must be very happy that you had someone who applied such integrity to raising you as a kid. What do you think you've taken from that?
You are who you are. And our parents really do know us better than we know ourselves. This is the truth. They understand us and know us better than we know ourselves. So I just took from that, like, he was right. The best thing my dad did for me was be hard on me.
It's weird that, like, you've grown up vegan and you've kind of had 40 years of veganism in your life, but people think often that it's kind of a new thing that white people in California who like yoga created. What do you think about that? Did you ever heard people say that?
I have. I let people live. You feel me? I let them live because, to be honest with you, I was vegan in an all-Black community when it was called vegetarian. For the lack of better term, I didn't find white vegans until I got to California a few years ago. You know what I mean? But prior to that, it was a Black and brown community because the vegetarian diet, vegan diet, is synonymous to most cultures outside of America. So it was in Philadelphia, and it was a melting pot as well. So you can go to anywhere in the city and always get, I say vegetarian because that's how, I mean vegan though, but anywhere in the city. So yeah.
Easy, right?
Exactly.
But you're a chef as well, so you like to cook. So does that help, do you think, if you're a vegan, knowing how to cook and kind of make food from their whole farm?
It does. It helped a lot because education is make you self-sufficient. So knowing how to cook made me self-sufficient. So I never had any problems with when I was in the army or away at high school or just out in the world because I knew how to cook so I could make my own meals. And my mom showed us how to make a litany of meals, but also it uniquely and rarely enough allowed me to connect to other people because I always loved cooking for people. So I was just making food. I made the food that I ate, so they would kind of fall in love with it as well.
What is your kid's favorite dish that you cook?
I have a buffalo fried chicken, and I have a vegan lobster roll. My mac and cheese. They love how I taken the standard American diet and made it vegan, but not gluttonous vegan. So I take the things they know and love, and I make it like in a whole happy and healthy way.
Amazing.
But the vegan lobster roll, that's their one. That always gets them. And I do a caviar out of watermelons. So, and they love that one as well.
Oh, wow. That sounds so good. People are probably thinking like, what are you making lobster out of?
So, okay. So on a very practical
Well,
level,
I don't want you to give away your secrets.
No, I got you. So I'll give this secret out. Lobster tastes like the ocean. There are plants that you can blend up and still taste like the ocean. So if you understand how to marry flowers, herbs, and spices and batters, you cooking with grease. You know what I mean? Get you a nice oyster mushroom, some seaweed, grind it up, maybe a little flaxseed, your favorite little fish batter, and yeah.
Wow, that sounds good.
A vegan remoulade, some capers, some vegan eggs, you know what I mean? You be in the money.
Nice. So I want to talk about your time in the military. What age were you when you went into the military?
17.
So you were a father in the military.
Right.
How was that?
It was a unique experience because I was still a child in the military, and the military is literally a world of its own. It's a thing of its own. But because I was so young, I still had like some semblance of people who tried to protect me. So it was okay. I made brotherhood, camaraderie. So it was good for that aspect. But yeah. Mm-hmm. And I did feed a lot of people. I did get healthy food to people. And it's unique because of social media, a lot of my battle buddies from 20 years ago, they see me doing this stuff now. They come to me. You've been doing this for forever. So it was a beautiful experience. I'm not going to lie.
That's nice. My partner's in the military, or was in the military, as you know, in the Navy. And at first, being a vegan in the military, it's not the norm, it's not considered something that men in the forces are into.
Right.
It's kind of this masculine profession, right? And veganism isn't seen as such. But by doing it and kind of, walking the walk and eating the food, people did become curious and ask questions and start trying it. And he saw around him over the years, he was there, people choosing vegan food over anything else, probably because of just seeing him and how he integrated it into his life.
I've been unique my whole life. I've been a one-of-one my whole life. It's my name, how I talk, my passion. So I got used to like being the oddball, for lack of a better term, but being able to embrace it and turn it into a light. So sometimes you have to walk into the fire in order to lead with the light to give it back to the people. You know what I mean? So I'm comfortable just like walking into the fire. I'm going to lead with the light and then illuminate everybody else. So
that's amazing. That's a very helpful approach for people to have when they're vegan, because a lot of people I speak to who are vegan are nervous in it. They're afraid of people finding out they're vegan, or afraid of how to broach it if the conversation around food comes up, as it always does. Right. It can be tricky to navigate in social situations being vegan. Is that kind of your ethos for it, to just kind of be confident with it, or what would you recommend?
So the greatest form of love is understanding. You don't have to agree with somebody to understand where they're coming from. You could just let somebody live, because people find their natural course. And we all know this. If you've been vegan over 10 years, there's a process that goes to this. You find out about veganism, then you maybe eat like your junk food, then you go raw. You have to let folks work their process. All you can do is be a conduit. You don't want to scare people away. That's probably the biggest thing. So give understanding to love. Like, I understand where you are. And then give wisdom in season. If it's not a time to give gems or to give advice, don't give them. Just be a listener. Understand when the time is to give the wisdom. So just give the wisdom in season.
Have you had people, friends, family members, partners in your life that have challenged you on raising a kid vegan or following a vegan lifestyle? Have they ever kind of pushed back against you, or even your kids themselves? And if so, how have you dealt with that?
Just giving grace to natural order of life. Anything different is going to receive resistance. So I've learned that sometimes in life you have to show and prove. And time always takes its course. You can't expect day 1 to look like day 300. And if it does, you have an issue. So just try to get 1% better every day, 1% better every day, 1% better every day. Introduce things to the partner. Introduce things like, The whole is always greater than the sum of its parts. So don't make it about an individual. Make it about the entirety of it. I don't just want my child to be healthy. I want the whole world to be healthy. That means you too. How can I help you? How can I be of service to you? What questions do you have? Why do you have concerns? I understand your concerns. You know what? That makes sense. Let's delve through it.
That's a nice segue into what you actually do, which is to cook food for people. So tell us about the work you do and how you got into being a vegan chef.
I was living in Chandler, Arizona, and I was expressing to my partner at the time, you know what, I want to take my chefing to the next level. We got to go to San Diego. I feel like San Diego was the precipice before Los Angeles. I get to San Diego. I'm in literally the top restaurant. We had some of the top creative culinary minds in the world in this kitchen. So I was extremely baffled how they could make grits, but not give them flavor without using bacon fat. I'm like, you guys really aren't good at what you do if you have to have bacon fat in your grits in order to have them taste good. But what got me was, it was twofold. They didn't have on the menu that it had bacon fat in them. So that's just completely, you're lying. We have a responsibility. And then second, I had a chef tell me I would never make money as a vegan chef. I'm so sorry, but like, and that drove me. I said, you know what? Challenge accepted, because at that amazing restaurant, people would come to see me cook. 'Cause I had an open station. They would come to see me for my energy, my vibe, I said, you know what? Hold my beer. And I said, I'm going to change the world through food.
It is, it's so true what you say. People often don't realize how many animal products they're consuming, because we hide it in things for flavor. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times I've picked up a packet of something like bread that you think, why would it have dairy? And yet there it is, some milk powder or some whey in the bread. And our culture believes that it's not going to be flavorsome without those ingredients, but you're proving otherwise.
The spice is life. The spice is love. The spice is education. Everything else is a prerequisite of those things. You can go to a litany of, different countries, cultures, and origins where they're heavily spiced, heavily herbed, very, very simple, whole food, plant-based. But today, to this day, we still eat their food, love, if it's Thai, Indian, curry, falafel, Mediterranean. Falafel is one of the best things ever. It is chickpeas. You know what I mean? Hummus, pardon me. Again, these are both chickpeas, two completely different things, both separately amazing, but equally amazing together.
Yes, they are.
You know?
Yeah, the chickpeas are good. They're very versatile.
So yeah, it's about education. And so that's why I do what I do, because my goal is to change the world through food.
And it's so important to give children this. You talk about people that don't have access to nutritious, delicious food, right? Oftentimes kids don't, and it's such a pivotal point in their life, because what happens to most of us as children will shape us for all time. So has that been a focus in your work, of carrying these foods to children, exposing them to nutritious plant-based foods?
Yeah. So I use the babies are the best part. The children they're the best part of our plan, the best part of our future. So it's all about getting it to them. And I enjoy giving it to the children because they have no biasing. They don't have any rent, or they're not beholden to anything but the truth. That's the innocence, pure truth. That's what they're beholden to. But what I do is I give it to them in a way that's palatable to them. So as though there's no trauma, there's no tarnishing, but they get the message, it's understood, but they learn accountability and understanding. So they find a way that now they can take what they know and make it impactful through their voice, their lens. If it's their love for animals, their love for food, their love for the clouds, their love for the plants, whatever that may look like, they could take what makes them great and now give it back to the world through food and through the vegan culture.
Mm. You and I did a food drive at the Boys and Girls Club in the Strata Courts. And I thought that was cool because oftentimes, you know, if you give someone a burrito who's an adult, they'll ask you what meat is in it. Kids don't do that. They take it, they bite it, they let you know if it tasted good.
Progress is a process. Progress is a process. And the secret to this is there is no secret. You have to ask them questions, have them thoroughly, because it's their body, it's their coach, have them thoroughly invested in it, and be willing to go outside your own personal box to allow the box of your child to be built, if you will. So you may not be a fan of something, but if it can be a bridge for your child, if it's not harming anyone, then it could possibly be helpful. Whatever works for you, you do. My grandma used to always say, normal is what works for you.
That is a problem we have. Like, I wanted to instill in my daughter that it's good to be different. We're all different in our own ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a great way to be different because you're showing that you have this elevated level of compassion, this elevated level of caring about what goes into your body and where it comes from. I mean, you talk about explaining everything to the child so they can make their own judgment, which I think is really, really important. I think there's a lack of that. I think a lot of kids have no idea where food comes from. And I guess many parents would say, well, when is the right time? Because when they're young, you can't show them videos of slaughterhouse footage.
That's an extremist thought. You can't show an adult that, but you can share videos that completely let you know what is going on. And we're in 2024, so there are cartoons, there are comic books. You can't spell accountability without you. So once you give a child accountability, they're going to hold you to that same accountability as well. And as an adult, it's hard to face that in the mirror for yourself, but having to face it to a child, because now you can't lie to a child. So it's better to just kind of go the other way, because now you have to live and walk in it too. Because you know what, mommy, why aren't you doing it? Daddy, why aren't you doing it? And you can't say because I'm grown, because that's not conducive to the actual path, and different is good. So sometimes you find difference in the difference. So you had, like, I was raised in a very unique lifestyle, and it was extremely different, and I'm different from that. Now they embrace me and love me. So people find their own ways. And but you can show a child a cartoon or education or a book, because you show them these cartoons and other things that have other kinds of messaging, and you give your child a bag of chips at 2.
Have you ever been in a situation where somebody, maybe not your family, outside your family, has given one of your children something that isn't vegan, or whether it be food or clothing or a cosmetic, because, we live in this imperfect world where people are exposed to things that don't align with what we want our children to be exposed to all the time.
Right.
Has that happened to you? And, if so, how do you deal with that?
So no, actually, it happens all the time. I just deal with it by, with grace. With conviction, giving grace, pardon me, because sometimes you have to be stern with people in order for them to understand how important it is to you. So I always strive to lead with love, lead with education, and lead with conviction.
Yeah.
But I start by educating my child so they understand how to say no and say no again, and then respond back and then not be intimidated.
Right. Because, and I've had this before where, somebody says, oh, you can't have that, or do you want that? And I would say, I can't, but that's not really the right answer. It's not a case of I can't. I can, but I don't want to. And here's why. And then you get to kind of explain where you're coming from, but also maybe educate them as well as to the principle behind it, right?
Exactly. You have the right to do what you choose. We're just doing otherwise. We still can do it collectively, but you're not going to force anything upon me or a child, because at that point in time, that's almost criminal. Forcing something upon a child that's against their cultural lifestyle, traditional beliefs is essentially criminal. And that's not love. That's not love, peace, or happiness. And we don't promote that.
It's funny you say that, because it's often flipped the other way, isn't it? Where people say that vegans are forcing their lifestyle upon their children. What do you think of that? Have you heard that?
People, we find our soapbox, and then we argue whatever we want to argue, because we force school on our kids. We force clothes on them. We force dinner on them. We force green beans on them. What, are we being serious? Like, I don't even entertain those words. I don't even entertain you now. That is not truth at all. It's comical, it's funny, but it's also it's irresponsible, because people who don't know any better would hear that and now start spewing that from that soapbox. All jokes aside, it's very irresponsible language.
Yeah, I agree. And I have often said, if I didn't force a diet onto my child, she would probably just want to live on toothpaste and soil because they're instinctively the thing she seems to want to put in her mouth.
Right.
And she would definitely never wear pants because she really doesn't like that. Very resistant to pants, not so resistant to tofu or kale. Very resistant to pants. And so it is. It's like, you've got to do things that a child wouldn't or couldn't do for themselves in the early years. Make those choices for your child, so that they don't freeze to death. You put pants on them, and so that they are nutritionally deficient, you feed them the greens. It's a must that we make these decisions for them, isn't it?
When I was 12, I wanted to be a pirate. So my dad,
a pirate or a pilot?
A pirate.
A pirate.
So my dad got me a patch in the wood leg. He didn't poke my eye out and cut my leg off. Because when I was 15 and done being a pirate, I can go back to playing football or something. You know what I'm saying? So it's just about just, working with just let people live. And like, what I mean? And again, it's not when you're raising a child, the only thing that's about you is you having love, peace, happiness, and integrity to make everything you're doing about that child and their well-being. How can they be the highest quality human on this earth?
We talked before about food being accessible, good, nutritious food. What if vegan food isn't accessible? Or is it? I mean, people say that it's difficult to be vegan in some parts of the country.
Before this vegan thing got cool, you still could find rice, beans, and avocados everywhere. You still could find vegetables everywhere. So you still could find 90% of the vegan diet 100 years ago everywhere. So I grew up in Philadelphia in a food desert on food stamps. I was on food stamps, okay? We would walk 2 miles to the grocery store as I was 5, Master was 3, and Shabazz was 1. We would walk to the grocery store with a cart, get the groceries, and then catch the bus back. Or we would go to our local corner store and get the onions, the rice, the dried beans, and make meals. So again, education is meant to make you self-sufficient. So when you're given misinformation or misleading information or irresponsible information, it's easy to go with that. Nowadays, you can go to a low-end grocery store and get produce. You can get produce anywhere nowadays. You can get dried beans anywhere nowadays. You can get rice anywhere nowadays. You can get mushrooms anywhere nowadays. I spoke about earlier making caviar from a watermelon. Last time I checked, you can get a watermelon almost anywhere. You can literally find somebody in the corner, get the case and make it that way. So it's what we have no access to is information. When I say information, that's going to change us specifically, whatever your core group is.
It is. I think it's, what is it? That famous film, Terminator 2. There's no fate but that which we make for ourselves.
You know what I mean?
I used to love that film as a kid.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Exactly.
So if there's any parents out there who have always maybe been interested in raising their kids vegan, but have been apprehensive about doing it for either social reasons or fears around nutrition, or just because they think it's going to be too hard, or maybe it's going to upset their grandparents, is there any specific advice that you'd want to give to them to help them make that switch?
Yes. Add vegan chicken nuggets, vegan mac and cheese, broccoli, and a chocolate chip cookie to your repertoire.
That's simple, huh?
I cannot make it up. 1 + 1 is 2, even in China. So just keep it simple, like vegan nuggets, mac and cheese, and broccoli with a vegan cookie. And what it allows you to do is you're building a rapport. So now the child trusts you. So whatever you put in front of their face, they're going to eat. It's about building that rapport. And I know life is about building rapport through every little, if it's food, if it's getting them to go to class, you got to build that rapport within that culture of communication, then you'll be good.
So this is the key lesson I've learned. If you want the world to be vegan, you got to make the food taste good.
So you got to do. It's 1 + 1 is 2. Just make good food and people will eat it like that. People eat, and if it looks good, it tastes good. So if it looks like they know, if it's good, they'll eat it.
And that's exactly what you're doing. Thank you, Naomi.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to Raising Gen V. If you'd like to hear more, please subscribe to this channel. You can also watch videos from this podcast via our YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook channels, details of which can be found in the description. Comments, likes, reviews, and ratings mean the world to my team and I, as do suggestions for future podcast guests and topics for discussion. Remember, children learn more from who you are than from what you teach. So make conscious choices, be curious about the world, be infinitely compassionate, and pave the way for a better tomorrow. See you next time.